Hi everyone, it's Mackie here. I'm doing a follow-up video today on a recent video that we did on photographing autumn colors. And we're back in the same woodland that I used to create that image in that video. In the previous video, we talked more about general tips on how to photograph autumn colors. But today I'm going to cover more extensive tips and techniques of how I actually achieve order out of chaos when photographing woodlands. So here in the UK, my favorite type of wood is the beech wood. It's what we're standing in today. If you're lucky enough to live somewhere like New England, those maples will really pop out at you. But for this type of wood, the thing I like about it is the tall, slender trunks that give you great lines for compositions and the golden leaves. And at this time of the year, I mean, we're shooting this at, the first week in November. Most places, the autumn is dead and gone. But that's the beauty about shooting here, that you can actually get some great color in the first week in November here in the UK. Okay, so there's a crucial thing about photographing woodlands. Where do you point the camera? You know, do you just go out and just point the camera at a bunch of trees and hope that you've got a nice composition? It doesn't really work that way. So you've got to try to create order out of chaos. And you can see in this woodland here, there's just trees everywhere. You've got lines intersecting with each other, merging. So you've got to carefully place your lines within the frame. Now, things I tend to look for in compositions would be leading lines, a little footpath or a track like we have here today leading into the scene. Other things would be framing, so branches framing the scene, or repetitive lines, patterns. So I'm going to take you through using different lenses also to achieve different effects. Everything from a 14 to 24, 24 to 70, 70 to 200, and then even the 300mm fixed focal length lens, just to compress all the trees together, and it gives you a totally different look. So one of the critical things about photographing woodlands is lighting. Now, I prefer soft overcast lighting, but as you can see in this image, I've got really strong lighting. So I came out early in the morning to get that soft lighting first before the sun came up. And as the sun rose, it created some brilliant shadows, some backlighting, which is great when photographing autumn trees. And also, especially to get that starburst effect just peeking around the trees. Just as in landscape photography, my favorite types of lighting are backlighting and side lighting. The same goes for a woodland like this. Now, when you're in a very deep, condensed woodland, and you've got bright sunshine coming in, you're going to create all sorts of contrasty, harsh shadows. And it's the worst lighting to use. That's when you need that overcast lighting to photograph really compacted woodlands. But in something like this, I'm standing on the edge of a wood. So I've got a field over here to my right, and I've got the sun this morning was rising just up over the trees, coming in through these. Now the backlighting creates a beautiful, very vibrant and bright light area effect. The side lighting picks out all of the trees, side lights of the trees, so it brings out all those slender tree trunks. So one of the things I did this morning is I used a range of different lenses to create different effects. I started out with my trusty 24 to 70. I use this quite a lot. This is one thing that photographers tend to do when shooting is they use one lens and that's it. But I was thinking about creating different effects with using different lenses. So I used the 24 to 70, which is a sort of a normal focal range lens, but I wanted to get a really exaggerated effect with the shadows. As the sun came up and cast some light through the trees, it created all these beautiful shadows on the forest floor. So I wanted to accentuate that by using a 14 to 24mm lens, which you can see here. Okay, so another lens I'd like to recommend is the 70 to 200mm lens. Now, a lot of people wouldn't think about using a telephoto in woodlands because they tend to actually put on wide-angle lenses that get in as much color and everything. But the nice thing about this lens, it's like cropping in real time. It's extrapolating all those elements out of the frame that you don't really need. You're concentrating just on the strong lines of the trunks and the color of the leaves coming through. So you'll see in this shot that this is exactly what I've done. I've just compressed the lines of this avenue of trees. So it really concentrates just on the strong composition. So taking this a step further, I used a 300mm lens that even accentuates the compression of the trees even more so, as you can see here. And it brings out the details and just makes you concentrate just on the strong lines of the image. So there's one really important tip I want you to remember. Now, invariably, when you're photographing, especially with a wide angle, you're going to get a lot of the sky coming through the trees. Those little white spots, especially if you're exposing for the leaves, will just go white, and your eye is going to attract right to those light spots in the frame. So you want to omit those, especially when I was talking about using telephoto. That takes all the sky out, so you're concentrating just on the brilliant colors and the tree trunks. Okay, a few final tips now. Filtration. Now, definitely a polarizing filter is such a must to this. Now you'll see a before shot here, and here's the after shot. It's a very subtle difference, but it actually brings out the color saturation in the leaves so much more than using one without. And final tip, always check the edges of your frame when you're shooting, because it's quite easy when you're in a woodland like this. You'll have that sort of ugly tree coming in from the corner of the frame that shouldn't be there, or a branch that you didn't see. So always check the edges of your frame just to make sure you don't have anything encroaching into your composition. So I hope these tips have actually inspired you to go out and try some different techniques using different lenses to create different effects. And as always, hit the like button and subscribe to us if you haven't already done so. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.